Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. Today I wanted to bring up and talk about a little bit about the impeachment process. It's been kind of bothering me a little bit that the insurgency didn't rise to the level of abuse of power that would lead to impeachment, that would lead to removal from office. Because if that isn't enough justification to do so, then what would be? Would he have to take over the military or something like that? The president take over the military? So I wanted to address that idea that there's this misunderstanding in our legal system that is allowing this head-butting idea that prevents the 3/4 or the 2/3 and 3/4 majority to solve problems. The Constitution is evolutionary, and it requires us to have a greater majority of the people who are in support of an idea. Okay, so in a way, if it's just a simple majority, that's not so much of a problem when it's an issue related to, let's say, passing the budget issues or things like that, where it's just a matter of the will of the people or doing the job that they're supposed to do. They all get together, they come up with a budget, and then they pass it, and that's no problem. But when it's an evolutionary situation, then that requires more agreement with it, because it has to represent where we are as a nation. Are we coming to the point with this simple majority idea where does that represent us? Does Donald Trump and his supporters represent us as a nation, even with 74 million people? I don't think so, because when Donald Trump told his grand lie, then basically those people who got dragged into it aren't necessarily people who support what happened. Why would any American support taking over and denying our own selves a vote? We're undermining an idea that is, what can you come up with a better plan? If you're protesting something, can you come up with a better idea? Is Donald Trump coming up with a better idea by overturning the election process? I don't think so. I think it was just a power grab. And that's where we are now, is looking at this idea. He should have been removed from office because it was just a power grab. He wasn't saying this is not right, that we need to come up with a better plan. He was saying this is not right, I'm president of the United States, and then he disenfranchises they said he disenfranchised, by losing the election, he was going to disenfranchise all those voters. That doesn't make sense. So the idea has been kind of bouncing around in my head, and then all of a sudden I started to compare this with the same thing that has been happening in the Catholic Church. Pope Francis has been instituting ideas, and he's been meeting a lot of resistance from people who like the old structure, and basically they're putting a lot of pressure on him to do things too. When you reach this point in the Catholic Church, there are two issues. Now, I'm going to just kind of leap over onto this other issue that is parallel to it, to give us a kind of an idea how to go back and deal with the one in the government. There are two issues in the Catholic Church that cannot be resolved from within the church. And that is sexual abuse by the priests and and acts of terrorism that came about as a result of the Crusades. These are issues that are based on the 7 deadly sins, and it would be like the priests judging each other. And the sexual abuse is the 7 deadly sin called lust, which is basically leads to slavery and leads to pushing people away and holding people to them and things like that. So in a way, it's like on a big scale, it starts out with people being hurt, but if the priest is going into the church with the idea that they're like a pedophile or something like that, it's something that you can't. It's based on weaving an illusion. You can't judge from within in the church that crisis. So they're expecting Pope Francis to solve this issue, but it's like if they're doing it themselves and they want to stay in power, then they can force Pope Francis to solve the problem, but then it's kind of like I'm good and you're bad, and it's that kind of thing. It's like weaving this illusion, and that's why when that happened, you can't judge from inside the church. Then on the same, that's the same thing that's going on within our government, is that the Republicans and the Democrats are just saying, you can't judge us. This is in this trial, he's weaving this illusion, and they have to unravel the illusion, and that's why this investigation, 9/11 style investigation, is going to happen. Turn it over to that. But in the meantime, that can take a couple of years to happen. That can take 3-4 years for it to be resolved before they come up when the independent, look at prosecutors are going through and looking at it, the commission. And then what are they going to do? Do they have the power to sanction Trump? And he could be in office again before that happens. So it's like there isn't a solution to that. But what happened is there's already been a solution that has been introduced. And basically the solution is something that people don't want to see happen. Is if you are grabbing for power, you don't want to see that solution come about. But then after a period of time, that your resistance collapses. I'll explain. After Pope John Paul, going back to the Catholic Church, after Pope John Paul II passed away, the cardinals got together and they tried to figure out who the next pope was going to be, and they were, jockeying for power, and they were trying to figure out who it was. And what do you do when you're a cardinal and you really would like to see yourself become the pope? Are you going to look really pious, or are you going to look, talk in the back room or whatever? So what happened is they came up with their candidate, and that was Benedict XVI, Joseph Ratzinger. And then based on the prophecies of Saint Malachi, he would be the olive pope. So he was trying to figure out how to, what name would he pick? How would he fit into this role of the prophecies of Saint Malachi that went back hundreds of years. And basically all it did was I don't know, there might be 50 or 60 popes from the time that Saint Malachi gave his prophecies to the end of the church. So this John Paul fit the prophecy. All of them had fit the prophecy. And then when it got to Benedict, it was like, how does he fit into this? People were looking at it. Every time there's a new pope, the Saint Malachi prophecies come out, and then they debate it for many years afterwards. How did he fit? And then when he gets older, it's how did he fit into the prophecy? And then what happened is So he would be the olive pope, and then Francis would be the last pope, the in extremis pope. So how did he fit into that idea? Is he being challenged? Is he the last pope? Is he being challenged? Is that what this headbutting thing is all about? Actually, what happened was God solved the problem by coming up with another prophet. And this prophet, the olive pope, is actually not from within the church at all, but God chose the olive pope, and that person is the one who's in charge of solving the problems that cannot be resolved from inside the church. The last pope, the in extremis pope, was Benedict, and that's why he resigned. He was not able to solve the problems that were inside the church. It was just considered like a power grab that he did. But so the next pope, the new pope of the new cycle, is Francis, and that's why he's setting the principles for the next 2,000 years, maybe, of the Catholic Church where it is, and he's meeting a lot of resistance. There's always a lot of resistance. At the beginning and the end of the cycle, there's always two. One is stands on the principles, and the other one is the application of the principles. So in the beginning of the Catholic Church, it was Peter and Jesus. Peter was the one who stood on the principles, and he was crucified for doing that. And then Jesus was the application of the principles, and he was crucified too because of this resistance that had been going along, because of people didn't want to see the changes, even though they knew they were coming. There were a lot of people who were holding on to the old structure, and they didn't like to see the changes. It took a long time for that to happen. This is the same thing that's happening now, you could say, in the end of the American democracy, is that we've come to the point, we've gone along for a period of time, and then we've had George Bush, and then Barack Obama, and then you could say that Donald Trump was the last one, the in extremis president. Barack Obama was the one who kind of like changed things and then set the stage for this resistance idea. So there's a parallel between what's happening now in the Catholic Church and what's happening now in the U.S. government. But so in the Catholic Church, it's easier to see that that the prophets are the ones now outside the church who are actually listening to what God has to say, and then working basically within the structure to solve these problems that cannot be resolved from within the church. And that's where we are now, is we're coming into that idea. The prophets, the age of prophecy has returned. Then now in our organization, we have the exempt purpose to purify the legal system. This is a legal right that we have to purify the legal system, and our organization has prophets in it. So we are going to be working with group channeling sessions to offer our services, just like what we're going to be doing with the Catholic Church. We're going to be addressing these issues, but it's not going to be through our Catholic Church in America project, which is coming soon. Okay. What I wanted to say is just that the power games are oppressive to the people, but there is a solution that's coming out, and as the age of prophecy has returned, the prophets, but then we also have to address the issue of false prophets and the messages, so discernment has to be resolved, and the prophets never tell anybody what to do. They just tell people how to do it. We're not responsible for control. The prophets have absolutely no power whatsoever in the Catholic Church or in the U.S. government. The only thing that we can do is clarify ideas, and then it's the responsibility of the people who have the authority and the power of the church and the government to address this and to apply the information. Barack Obama was very good when he went out and he started to solve problems. He originally, as soon as he got into office, because of the economic crisis that was going on, he turned responsibility over for solutions to the Board of Economic Supervisors, and then they came up with a solution. It wasn't necessarily the right one. It wasn't necessarily the perfect one, but they were able to solve problems. Like, how many of us have plumbing problems, car problems, whatever? When you have problems, you turn it over to somebody who knows how to do it. So that's what he did. He turned it over to somebody who knew how to do it. But then he went out looking for ideas from amongst the people. And the people were the ones who also didn't necessarily have the problems. It wasn't until the Plan for World Peace did an end run around the existing structure through our affiliate members, and then that leveraged it up to the ambassadors, and that leveraged it to the world leaders, and that leveraged it when Ahmadinejad of Iran found out about the Plan for World Peace, that he leveraged it into Obama's hands, and then that solved the problem with when he came up with the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal agreement, where they were going to allow other people to come in and the UN to come in and inspect to make sure they weren't using the weapons for power. But that wasn't necessarily the final solution. The final solution is coming from the prophets and through our plan for the international government. So when you have a solution, everybody has a solution, everybody has a problem, and the idea is to find the people who have the solution. Sometimes you got to do that end run around those butting heads, just like a football game. If a smart quarterback doesn't go over the line, it goes around. So that's where we are now, is where the prophets are coming back. This is the age of prophecy again. So that's all I wanted to say. I ask you to like, share, and subscribe. Most of all, share with other people from the standpoint of join the debate and talk about this. The impeachment process needs to be something where it's like it says in my letter, it's an evolutionary process where it demonstrates where we are as a nation. When it requires a 2/3 majority or a 3/4 majority, it has to demonstrate where we are as a nation. And I honestly don't think that Donald Trump represents where we are as a nation. He told a grand lie. He wove an illusion, and the people who really care about our country, many people who care about our country and just didn't have the discernment to know that he was lying to them, fell into the plan. So that's a good lesson that we've learned over the last 4 years. Okay, last 200 years. We have to watch. Or in the Catholic Church is 2,000 years. Okay, power grabs. Okay. So that's what we're going to be concentrating on, and that's what my books are about, the Power series. Where does power come from? True power doesn't come from power grabs. Power grabs demonstrate a lack of power. And so that's why Donald Trump over the next 4 years is probably going to be losing power. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say. Like, share, and subscribe. Okay.